Hello, everyone, and welcome to another video here on the Sports Daily Media Network YouTube channel. Tonight we have a college football playoff recap. This one was the Fiesta Bowl between Penn State and Boise State. I'm your host, Sean Vowells, and I'm joined by Joe Meade. And Joe, Penn State takes care of business here. Nittany Lions 31, Broncos 14. Really going into the game, obviously the biggest threat from Boise State, or from Penn State's point of view, was many people's pick for the Heisman Trophy Award. He ended up getting runner-up, but that was Ashton Jeanty, and he does get to 100 yards, but it takes 30 carries almost exclusively against stacked boxes. Before we go into the rest of the game, Penn State had to bottle him up, and for the most part, they did.
Sean, I thought Tom Allen, the entire defensive staff did a phenomenal job bottling him up and really fooling Maddox Matson the entire game. There was not a moment, except maybe for the one TD, and even then, the one that cut it to 24-14. Even then, that was kind of a spot, like a chunk play. There were very few of those outside the one Genty 26-yard run. They did a really good job keeping them in front, particularly Genty and the entire Boise State receiving core. And they kind of said, listen, here's what we're going to let you do. We'll let you drive down the field, but you're going to do it in bit by bit. You're not going to do it in chunk, chunk, chunk. And I think that's where they got in trouble in the Ohio State game. And that's where they even got in trouble during the USC and Minnesota game, right, Sean? They allowed too many big plays in those games. And really, of those three, they were kind of lucky to win two of those three, not taking anything away from Penn State. And then the Oregon game is the extreme of that. Way too many big plays. So I think this comes full circle for the defense in terms of where they're at right now. So I think a lot of credit has to go to the coaching staff, because I think last year Manny Diaz would be a little over aggressive in these situations, and I thought Tom Allen was the perfect mix between aggressive and even with Abdul Carter out, aggressive and strategic, and kind of looking at the bigger picture, because he knew his offense would have a lot more success than the offense of 2023.
And Joe, I think a lot of people, the Travis Hunter truthers out there, were calling this game a Jeanty fraud game. Penn State hit him in the backfield probably more than half the time. And you have to give Tom Allen credit for that. And I think it was impressive from Jeanty that he got to 100 yards with how many times. I mean, he never really had a hole to run through. He was the best running back in the country. He probably should have won the Heisman. But once Penn State dealt with that, I think Tom Allen and Penn State went out there saying, all right, like, if we take away your best player, we don't think that you can score. And they weren't able to do that consistently. Penn State goes up 14-0 relatively quickly, and then it's 17-7 at halftime. Boise State does cut it back with that opening drive in the second half, but Joe, they never got the ball back within a possession. Penn State responded to that touchdown with a touchdown of their own, and they were able to really chew this game away pretty efficiently. But the gameplay here wasn't entirely surprising. We did expect Penn State to win this one. We didn't really think that Boise could stop them. They ended up not being able to, and Penn State's defense was able to get the job done here. Drew Aller, just 13 of 25 for 171 yards and 3 touchdowns. They were extremely efficient on the ground as a team, Joe. 30 carries for 220 yards if you take away some of the quarterback stuff. Katron Allen averaged 7.9 yards per carry. He was really good. Nick Singleton, the same. Penn State won this game by being so efficient on the ground, and maybe that wasn't exactly what we saw coming.
Yeah, Sean, I really think Katron Allen is the MVP here. Now, a lot of people are going to look at the Drew Aller. Oh, he did his job. I think there's a lot of Drew Aller truthers out there. Not saying they're wrong, but I think it's a total discredit to Katron Allen if you give Aller the MVP. I think Tyler Warren, he's done what he's done all year. He's bailed them out, particularly on that final TD pass that Aller ended up throwing. The one where the DB foolishly I don't know why Boise's and particularly Danielson left Tyler Warren on a third down and single coverage. That's never worked the entire year, and it's going to continue to not work, whether Notre Dame or whoever they play in the national title game, should they get that far. Should they try that, it's not going to work, and it's kind of amazing they didn't learn that. But Katron Allen was the most consistent back. I thought it was a really good idea of Andy Kolomicki to roll with him. Normally Singleton most of the games this year, he's gotten more of the carries, but I think he realized that this was a Katron Allen type game. And Singleton did have the dagger final TD run of the game, where he got most of his 87 yards. Because you take out that Sean, and he only had about like 29 on 11, which isn't great. But one of the backs was clicking, and to win this game, I think really only one of them had to be clicking. I think to beat Notre Dame or Texas or Ohio State, it'd be nice to have both of them not necessarily clicking, but both of them being efficient. Uh, this time they were really fortunate to have Katron Allen be more than efficient. He was straight up a beast to sound like a 10-year-old child. So
Yeah, and the two Penn State running backs together, 29 carries for over 210 yards. That's way, way more efficient than 30 for 104, which is what Jeanty had. But Penn State does take care of business here. Joe, Boise State's season does come to an end. They finished the year 12-2, a loss to past number one Oregon, and then to Penn State here. That was a pretty good season for Boise all around, and Joe, they are going to be targeting that Group of Five conference champion spot for the time being, as long as that is a guaranteed spot in the playoff. But you'd have to think for the future they are well positioned to continue to be here.
absolutely, Sean. And unless there's great reform, which based on who's headed the
Yeah, it
committee
might.
this year,
There might be.
there might be, but if Ward Manuel continues to head it, I'm not so sure. But like I said, Sean, outside of my grievances, I do think that Boise State's in a great spot overall as a program. I think their defense was definitely not the issue. I thought they've been efficient the whole year, and I do think that regardless, they should be the favorite on next year, outside of a team getting massive transfer hauls.
And Joe, there wasn't really a point this year where there was ever another Group of Five team projected above them. I mean, you had the likes of Army given a chance, but that was always contingent on Boise State losing another game, which they didn't. But I think they were extremely lucky, obviously, to get as high as the 3 seed with a couple conference champions having a number of losses. But I still think they're in a pretty good position to make the college football playoff. And I do think even if there is reform, I do think the Group of Five champion will still get in. And chances Boise State's probably number one on that list for next year. All right, for Penn State, Joe, they move on to play Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. There will be another video of that preview on the channel, but so far so good for Penn State, Joe. 2 for 2, 2 games where they were heavily favored, and they can't really do more than they have so far. They take care of business 2 of 2 times. Overall, impressed as Penn State gets into the Final Four.
I'm very impressed. I think most fans this year had their expectations that Penn State get into the 12 team, perhaps win a game. They've won 2 games now. Now, the easy detractor comment would be they haven't beaten anyone that they're not better than. Well,
There's only a few teams that are better
well,
than
that's
them.
the thing. Yeah,
Yep.
that's the thing, Sean. I think there's probably only 4 or 5 teams this entire year that have been better than them. And, 2 of those 5, I'll tell you right now, are sitting at home, getting ready to watch this playoff game, not getting ready to play in it. So I think that should speak volumes. I think, a big detraction on James Franklin overall, aside from the big game stat and the 1-16 stat, has been the fact he hadn't been to the college football playoff when it was 4 teams. Well, now he finally has. So I think a lot of people are happy, but I do think there's a lot more to be desired. And I'm pretty sure those detractors, should they lose in a silly win, Notre Dame will be happy to fill the room with their thoughts again.
All right, Joe, that is all we have for you today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please check out the other videos if you haven't already. There's plenty of them on the channel, from basketball to football previews, and then obviously we've got a bunch coming in the future. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.